Van Ryken Productions presents Blood Noir.
Last time on Blood Noir, we followed Sterling Angrave, a private investigator. He was approached by a woman named Evelyn Lemieux, whose husband had gone missing under suspicious circumstances. The missing husband, Henry, was involved in shady dealings, including illegal bets on underground fights and potential ties to the Lombardi crime family. Sterling took on the case, and as he investigated, he encountered a mysterious person who followed him home and left a note. Sterling also learned about Sinclaire Industries and a strange murder case involving a man who had been exsanguinated. The story continues now on Blood Noir. The Velvet Note was busy as always. Patrons from all walks of life gathered here for a night of jazz, drinking, and schmoozing, amongst other things. The band was in fine form, the smooth notes of their performance mingling with the smoke in the air and the buzz of the room. Sterling carefully made his way through the crowd, briefcase in hand, eyes peeled for Evelyn. Sitting at the bar, he lit up a cigarette and ordered an old-fashioned. As he cast his eyes about the room, he took amusement in the many small stories that were playing out in the club like little motion pictures. Two men smoking cigars sat in a booth in a far corner, laughing uproariously over something one of them had said. Two women stood across the way, one of them clearly overserved and crying, the other trying to comfort her. A woman sat in the back of the room, cigarette burning, eyes locking with his as they passed over her and looked again.
That's not Evelyn.
Sterling did his best to look nonchalant until a familiar blonde in a sparkling black dress sat beside him.
Any luck?
Very little so far.
Sterling flicked his cigarette into an ashtray and made a point not to look at the woman watching him.
Henry was involved in a deal with Sinclaire Industries. I checked out the building from his records. They're opening a blood bank.
A blood bank? Whatever for?
Well, I assume it's for donating blood.
Funny. It's just an odd venture. That blood is in fact donated. Is there even any money in it?
No idea. I'm a PI, not a businessman. Maybe it's a tax write-off.
I found some more documents in Henry's desk. I had to break the lock off the drawer.
The woman slid a manila envelope across the bar to the detective, and he opened it curiously. Inside was a notebook and a small pile of loose sheets. He tucked the envelope into his briefcase and looked around.
So, where's this lawyer at?
I saw him when he came in. He was going upstairs to the velvet rope section. It's going to take some doing to get by the bouncer.
Well, no time like the present.
The two of them wound through the sea of people, heading for the stairs that were being guarded by a large man in a neatly pressed three-piece suit. He nodded at them as they approached.
You on the list?
We're here to meet with Mr. Aberdeen. My wife and I are clients of his.
Yes, we were invited to speak with him tonight about a lawsuit we're filing.
Ah, I see. Well, I have to have somebody go ask him about you.
I'm sure that's not gonna be necessary. We're just looking to speak with our lawyer.
If you ain't on the list, I can't let you up.
Well, if you need a name from the list, I'm sure that my good friend Mr. Green is on the list.
Sterling casually drew several crisp bills from his pocket, cuffing them under his palm as to not be obvious.
And how much is Mr. Green planning on spending tonight?
At least $20 for sure.
The bouncer's eyes widened slightly. That was more than he was making for his whole shift tonight.
If you're meeting up with Mr. Green, too, I'm sure he won't mind if I let you up.
Sterling pressed the money into the man's hands as he lifted the velvet rope and gestured vaguely. They ascended the stairs. There was much less of a crowd up here, but the people that were up here were much better dressed, drinking fancy drinks, smoking thin cigarettes, and generally acting rich. Evelyn gestured subtly across the way to a portly, balding man in a gray suit, sitting with two rather bored-looking women.
That's Roy.
Well, let's go pay him a visit.
They approached the man's table, and the women were the first to notice them. They looked uncomfortable. Roy looked up.
Can I help you two?
Mr. Aberdeen, my name is Sterling Aingrave. I believe you already know Evelyn here.
Never met her in my life.
Sterling could tell immediately that the man was lying. His eye twitched as he spoke, a common tell. He flashed his investigator license.
Let me jump straight to the point. I'm here investigating the disappearance. And your name has come up quite a bit. I'd like a few words, please.
You know what? Sure. Girls, go ahead and get yourself a fancy drink. I need a few minutes.
The girls were not hesitant in taking the money Roy proffered and disappearing from the booth. Sterling and Evelyn sat.
If you know who I am, you must know you're not getting any information out of me without my own attorney present.
I'm not a copper, Mr. Aberdeen. I'm private.
I know who you are, Angrave. I've seen you at the courthouse. You've lost me quite a number of cases.
Then you know I'm very determined when it comes to my work. And right now, I'm gonna need to ask you a few questions.
It might have been something in Sterling's tone that caused Roy's expression to go from stone-faced to one of concern.
Fine. What do you want to know?
Where's my husband?
Evelyn,
Wait. Henry's missing?
so you do know Evelyn.
Yeah, we're not in court. I can leave.
When was the last time you saw Henry?
Maybe a week ago, after we signed off on a property closure together.
The place on Eustace?
How did you know that?
Never mind that. Who'd you work with from Sinclair?
I can't tell you that. Client confidentiality.
I think you're gonna find I'm gonna get my answers from you. One way or another.
Is that a threat?
Not a threat. A promise.
Carlisle Sinclair, company owner.
See? Not so hard, huh? Why'd Sinclair buy the building to put up a blood bank?
How the hell am I supposed to know that?
Just a question.
I don't know. I just know he wanted the building.
And did you also recently sign a closure for an apartment building in town for Sinclair?
You know I'm going to call the police as soon as we're done here, right? There's a telephone at the bar.
Answer the question, Roy.
Yes, Sinclair bought out the apartment buildings on Carter Boulevard.
And did you know he was planning on evicting all the residents?
He mentioned something about it.
Mentioned what?
Said he was doing charity work. Something about housing heroin addicts to help get them clean.
Huh.
Anything else?
What's Henry got to do with any of this?
Oh, damn it, I don't know. Henry liked putting his nose in places he didn't belong. He was probably snooping, and he got what he deserved for it.
Sterling had to physically hold Evelyn back as she tried to throw herself over the table at him. Roy waved away the security guard who was making his way towards them.
Now we're done here. You're going to leave me in peace. I'm going to call the police. This was an illegal interrogation under duress. Leave. Now.
Evelyn looked furious and didn't seem to want to go, but Sterling stood up.
We'll leave you two.
The two of them left the lawyer to his own devices.
That wasn't helpful at all.
It was, actually.
How?
Now we know he's hiding something. I'm gonna do some snooping around tomorrow. You need to go home where it's safe. Come by my office tomorrow.
I'm not leaving until...
We're not gonna get anything else out of Mr. Aberdeen. You brought me more paperwork that I gotta look through. We've done all we can. Have a drink, calm down, and go home.
Evelyn huffed softly and made for the bar. Sterling took a deep breath and headed into the crowd, towards the back of the room where he knew someone was waiting for him. Mave stepped into the velvet note, eyes darting left and right as she sized up the crowd. Busy night. She made her way to the bar and ordered a drink, taking it to a table in the back. There she sat, eyes peeled for anything noteworthy. After some time, she saw a familiar face enter. Sterling Aingrave, accompanied by a woman that she knew to be Henry's wife, Evelyn. She gripped her cup tightly. At one point, she made direct eye contact with the PI and she nodded curtly. The two of them made their way to the bar and then wandered to the stairs to the second level, conversed with the bouncer, then disappeared upstairs. She continued to wait, eyes roaming the people packed into the club like sardines. The band was in fine form, a woman in a slender red dress crooning a delicate melody into the microphone in front of her. That's when Mave saw something interesting. A pale, handsome man with a perfect coif and charming smile talking to a young lady at the bar who was clearly very tipsy. She was too far away to hear their conversation, but he watched as the two of them began to wend their way through the club towards a back entrance she knew led to an alley behind the building. She had a bad feeling. She immediately got up to follow. She opened the back door silently, hearing traces of their conversation now that they were outside.
Oh, I just can't, darling. I need you now. And I think you'll be glad we didn't wait.
Mave saw that the man had the woman pressed against a wall of the alley, and the two were kissing rather passionately. Normally she'd mind her own business, but she couldn't shake the feeling she was getting.
I have a surprise for you. I just need you to close your eyes.
Mave watched as the woman closed her eyes and the handsome man leaned in towards her neck, mouth open. She drew her pistol from her holster.
That's enough, asshole. Back up.
The man stopped. The woman opened her eyes and looked confused.
I know who you are. Oh, damn.
If there weren't other people nearby, you'd be dead. I suggest you run.
The man now wore an expression of panic. He let go of the woman and bolted out of the alley frantically. Mave hid her pistol away quickly. The woman looked at her angrily.
I suggest you head back inside and find someone who can get you home safe.
Maybe it was the look on Mave's face, but the woman went from angry to anxious, and she nodded before heading inside. Mave sighed and watched the alley's entrance for a long moment before stepping back into the club herself. She managed to get her original seat back, and so she sat and waited. She wasn't shaken by her experience in the alley, not by any means, but it did give her pause. She shook her head as she saw the man of the hour walking towards her table.
I'm supposing you were the one following me last night.
And what if I was?
I don't take too kindly to it, especially when you threaten the doorman with a gun.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
What do you want?
Sit, please.
Fine.
As Sterling sat across from the mysterious woman, he tapped a passing waitress and ordered another drink.
Your note said you knew what I was looking for. What might that be, exactly?
Henry Lemieux.
What if I told you I'd never heard of him?
And what if I told you I know you're lying?
You're sure about that?
As sure as I saw Evelyn Lemieux leaving your office.
So what? What's your connection?
Henry's a friend of mine.
I see. So, you know where he is?
No, that's what I need you for, but I think I know who took him.
And who might that be?
Carlisle Sinclair.
The suit that owns Sinclaire Industries?
The same. I know you've started sniffing around his neck of the woods.
Why'd he open the blood bank?
It's a growing industry. He's got his fingers in every pie you can think of.
What do you know about the apartment building he just bought?
Carlisle wants people to think he's a philanthropist. Buys a big building, turns it into a center for addicts to get clean. He's got a few of them now.
I've heard. Anything else?
Word on the street is that not everyone that goes to those buildings comes out.
Interesting. Noted for later. When I was scoping out the blood bank, I saw a man come out and get in a fancy car. Sunglasses, wearing sunscreen, big scarf. Looking like he was trying to cover himself up.
Sounds like Carlisle. Not a fan of the sun, that guy.
And you think he took Henry?
It makes sense. Henry was helping Carlisle close several property deals. The last time anyone heard from him was the day the blood bank deal went down.
It's possible Henry found out something he shouldn't have.
Exactly.
What's your name, by the way?
Is it important?
I have a hard time trusting info from strangers. You got me at a disadvantage. You know my name.
I'm Mave.
Pleased to meet you.
Likewise. Now, since we're being forthcoming for the sake of Henry, what else do you know?
I know that Roy Aberdeen is the lawyer signing off on all of Henry's deals with Sinclair.
Don't know the name. I'll look into him.
Real shady type.
Well, he's a lawyer.
I gotta ask again. What's got you so involved in this?
Henry's a friend, that's all.
Just curious, though. Do you know where Sinclaire holds up?
Like I said, I'm coming to you for a reason, since you're already on the case.
And there's nothing else you know?
You're going to want to do a lot of snooping during the day. But watch yourself. Sinclaire is dangerous anytime.
Normally my job is more efficient at night. Care to explain?
Just trust me.
You are purposefully not telling me something.
I'm telling you what I can. Be careful.
Mave downed the rest of her drink and stood from the table. Sterling noticed for the first time that instead of a dress, or for that matter, a woman's attire, she wore long black trousers with heavy boots. From the back of her chair, she retrieved her trench coat.
Leaving so soon?
I have things to attend to. I'll be in touch soon.
She left Sterling alone at the table, the lonely notes of a slow, sad melody drifting through the smoke-filled room. He watched her go, frustrated that he had gotten more questions than answers tonight.
I swear, there's something obvious that I'm still missing.
While Sterling was busy with his investigation at the Velvet Note, across the city, the Sinclaire Industries building loomed like a behemoth over the surrounding buildings. At the very top, in a huge penthouse office, a pale-skinned man sat behind an opulent mahogany desk. Pale-skinned, his platinum-blonde hair lay slicked back on his head. He inhaled deeply on a lit cigarette as he directed a bored gaze around his lavishly appointed office. The expensive carpet, the fine paintings on the wall, the elaborate metal light sconces on the walls. All were signs of a man with a lot of money. The man sat back in his high-backed leather chair as the door to the office opened. Two large men in suits entered, dragging a third man between them. The one in the middle had clearly been heavily beaten. He was bleeding from the nose and mouth, both eyes blackened. He seemed to be on the verge of unconsciousness. The two big men dropped their charge abruptly on the floor. He lay there, limply.
Really, boys, on my nice carpet? Just get out of here. Stay outside the door until I call you.
The two men nodded and exited silently. The blond man stood up from his chair, flicking ash from his cigarette into an ashtray as he did. He moved around to the front of the desk and squatted down before the bloodied lump on the floor.
Hello, Henry.
The man on the floor looked up, a pained expression on his face.
Do you know who I am?
Get bent.
Such an attitude. Henry, my name is Carlisle Sinclair, but I believe you know that. Do you know why you're here?
I ain't talking to you.
That's okay, Henry. I can talk enough for the both of us. You're here right now because you've been putting your nose right where it doesn't belong, haven't you? My boys found you in the archives of this very building. You ran. Almost got away too. I'm impressed, Henry. Very impressed. My security is pretty tight.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, Henry, I thought you weren't talking to me. That's okay. You'll have plenty of time to speak. Tell me, what did you take from my archives? I need you to tell me what you took. You stole something from me, ran to your little hidey hole and hid it. That's a lovely sound, Henry. I'm going to find out what you took eventually. I'm just giving you a chance to tell me and get out of the punishment I'm going to put you through to find out. I'll tell you what. Maybe I won't torture you. Maybe I won't cut your body 1,000 times. Maybe I won't pull out your fingernails one by one. Maybe I'll try something else, Henry. How's your wife?
I'm not married, you prick.
All right now, I can abide a lot of things, but I don't like it when people lie to me. I'll ask again. How is Evelyn? You see, some of my boys found your house after you got brought here. They're tossing the place right now. Last I heard, she wasn't home, but that'll change eventually, won't it? I think maybe I'll have them hang around a while. Wait for her.
Don't you dare touch her!
What are you going to do, Henry? You're currently bleeding all over my carpet. Oh, you can't even stand, can you? So, if you want us to leave Evelyn be, you're going to talk.
You ain't gonna do nothing to her. I swear to God, if you so much as breathe in her direction.
Henry, you're now talking too much and not about what I want you to. Now, if you won't speak, you're going to listen. And listen well. I'm going to have my boys take you back to that dark little room you've been in, and I'm going to let you fester. And more importantly, I'm going to let you wonder what's happened to your precious wife. And when I take you out of that room, we're going to chat again. Boys?
The two large men re-entered the room and lifted Henry's limp form from the floor, roughly dragging him from the room. Carlyle stared frustratedly at a bloodstain on his expensive rug.
Well, that really worked up an appetite.
Blood Noir, Episode 2, featuring the voice talents of Aubrey Akers as the narrator, Chris Wentworth as Sterling Ongrave, Alina Masquerade as Evelyn Lemieux, Melissa Sacrison as Mave, Michael Aragon as the Bouncer, Danger Durkin as Roy Aberdeen, Bumwitch as Ali Stranger, Steve Jones as Carlisle Sinclair, and Daniel Coet as Henry Lemieux. Written by Gerald Van Ryken, directed by Adam Blanford. Sound effects provided by Epidemic Sound and freesound.org in the public domain. Music featured in this episode: Covert Affair, Aparo Hour, Just As Soon, Faster Does It, Night on the Docks, Sax, and Vibing Over Venus. Was composed by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. http://creativecommons.org/licenses/by/4.0. Blood Noir. Copyright 2024 by Gerald Van Ryken. This production is copyright 2024 Van Ryken Productions.